Hello, beautiful soul. Come, sit with me for a while. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to settle into this moment. I want you to know that wherever you are right now, whatever you're feeling, you are exactly where you need to be. There's something so tender about the human heart when it's faced with the unknown, isn't there? That flutter in your chest, that tightness in your stomach, the way your mind races trying to figure everything out. I see you there, perhaps sitting with questions that have no easy answers, maybe feeling like you're standing at the edge of a cliff, not knowing what lies ahead. Your beautiful mind might be spinning with all the what ifs and how comes. What if I make the wrong choice? What if things don't work out? How will I know what to do? These questions feel so real, so urgent, don't they? You know, there was a time in my own life when uncertainty felt like my greatest enemy. I thought if I could just plan enough, control enough, worry enough, then somehow I could make life safe and predictable. I carried this belief that good people, smart people, responsible people should have their lives figured out. And when I didn't, when life threw me those beautiful curveballs that life loves to throw, I felt like I was failing somehow. But here's what I've discovered through all my years of living and learning and stumbling and growing. Uncertainty isn't your enemy, sweet one. It's actually life's way of keeping the door open for magic. When we don't know what's coming next, when the path ahead isn't perfectly clear, that's when life has room to surprise us with something even more wonderful than we could have planned. Right now, as you listen to these words, your nervous system might be telling you a different story. It might be saying, "But Louise, I need to know. I need to have a plan. How can I feel safe if I don't know what's happening?" And oh, how I understand that voice. That's the voice of the part of you that learned very early that knowing meant safety, that having control meant being loved, that uncertainty meant danger. But let me tell you something your nervous system might have forgotten. You have survived every single uncertain moment of your life so far. Every single one. You have weathered storms you never thought you could weather. You have found your way through dark nights that seemed endless. You have discovered strength in yourself that you didn't even know existed. Your very presence here, listening to these words, is proof of your incredible resilience and your ability to navigate the unknown. The sacred space we're creating together right now is one where you can begin to remember this truth about yourself, where you can start to feel into the possibility that maybe, just maybe, not knowing everything ahead of time isn't a flaw in your character or a sign that you're doing life wrong. Maybe it's simply the way life works, the way growth happens, the way love expands. When we really look at uncertainty, when we get curious about it instead of fighting it, we start to see something fascinating. We begin to understand that our relationship with the unknown says so much more about our past than it does about our future. The way you feel when faced with uncertainty today was likely shaped by moments when you were very small, when your little nervous system was learning how to make sense of a world that felt too big and too unpredictable. Think about how a young child's world works. Everything depends on the adults around them. Food appears or it doesn't. Comfort comes or it doesn't. Love feels present or it feels absent. For a little one, not knowing what's coming next can feel like a matter of survival. So that beautiful child learns to watch, to predict, to try to control their environment in whatever ways they can. They learn that uncertainty equals danger. This learning happens so deep in our bodies, so far below our conscious awareness, that we carry it with us long after we've grown up. That part of you that gets anxious when you don't know what's coming next is often that same little one who learned that safety came from knowing, from being able to predict and control. But here's the beautiful thing about being an adult, about being exactly who you are right now. You have resources that little child didn't have. You have wisdom and strength and the ability to choose how you respond to uncertainty. You can learn to be the safe, loving adult for that part of yourself that still feels scared when the future looks unclear. Our minds, bless them, want so desperately to help us feel safe. They work so hard, creating stories and plans and scenarios, trying to figure out every possible outcome so we can be prepared. Your mind isn't wrong for doing this. It's actually trying to love you the best way it knows how. But sometimes our minds get a little confused about what real safety actually looks like. Real safety doesn't come from knowing everything that's going to happen. Real safety comes from knowing that you can handle whatever does happen. It comes from trusting your own ability to respond, to adapt, to find your way. It comes from remembering that you are far more resilient and resourceful than your worried mind wants you to believe. We live in a culture that worships control, that sells us the idea that if we just do enough, plan enough, work hard enough, we can somehow guarantee our outcomes. We're told that successful people are those who have 5-year plans and clear goals and never deviate from their path. But life, beautiful life, doesn't work that way. Life is organic, flowing, constantly changing and evolving. When we try to force life into our small human plans, when we insist that things must go exactly as we've decided they should, we create so much unnecessary suffering for ourselves. We're like someone trying to hold water in their cupped hands, squeezing tighter and tighter, only to find that the harder we squeeze, the more the water slips through our fingers. But what if we could learn to see uncertainty not as a problem to be solved, but as life's way of creating space for miracles? What if we could trust that the very things we can't control or predict might be exactly what our souls need for their deepest growth and healing? Let me share something with you about water, because water has so much wisdom to teach us about flowing with life's uncertainties. Have you ever watched a river make its way down a mountain? The water doesn't fight against the rocks in its path. It doesn't sit there and worry about what obstacles might be coming around the bend. It simply flows, finding its way over and around and through whatever it encounters. When the river meets a large boulder, it doesn't stop and say, "Oh no, I didn't plan for this boulder. This wasn't supposed to be here." Instead, it gracefully flows around it, sometimes creating the most beautiful patterns and sounds as it does. The boulder becomes part of the river's journey, part of its unique character and song. Sometimes the river flows slowly through peaceful meadows, and sometimes it rushes rapidly through narrow channels. Sometimes it pools in quiet lakes, and sometimes it tumbles dramatically over waterfalls. But through it all, the river never fights against its own nature. It never tries to be anything other than water, flowing toward its ultimate destination. This is what I mean when I talk about learning to flow with life's uncertainties. It's not about being passive or giving up on your dreams and desires. It's about recognizing that life has its own intelligence, its own timing, its own way of unfolding that's often far more beautiful and surprising than anything we could orchestrate with our limited human perspective. When we learn to flow like water, we discover something magical. Resistance is what creates turbulence, not the obstacles themselves. Watch what happens when water hits a rock with resistance versus when it flows around with acceptance. The water that fights creates chaos and noise and exhaustion. The water that yields creates grace and beauty and ease. In your own life, you've probably experienced both kinds of flowing. There have been times when you've fought against what was happening, when you've exhausted yourself trying to force outcomes, trying to make life look exactly like your plan. And there have been other times when you've somehow found the grace to let go, to trust, to allow life to carry you, and you've discovered that the path that opened up was often more wonderful than the one you had originally mapped out. This doesn't mean we become passive observers of our own lives. There's a big difference between surrendering and giving up. Giving up comes from exhaustion and defeat. Surrendering comes from wisdom and trust. When we surrender, we're not abandoning our desires or our participation in our own lives. We're simply releasing our tight grip on exactly how those desires must manifest. Think about how a surfer rides a wave. The surfer doesn't control the wave, doesn't tell it how big to be or which direction to go. But the surfer also isn't passive. They're actively engaged, reading the water, adjusting their balance, working with the wave's energy rather than against it. This is the kind of active surrender I'm talking about. This is what it means to flow with uncertainty while still being fully present and engaged in your own life. Nature shows us this wisdom everywhere we look. Trees don't fight against the wind. They bend and sway, and this flexibility is what allows them to survive even the strongest storms. The trees that are too rigid, that refuse to yield, are the ones that break. But the trees that have learned to dance with the wind can weather any storm and grow even stronger because of it. Seasons change without asking our permission. Day turns to night, turns to day again in a rhythm that's been going on long before we arrived and will continue long after we're gone. Seeds split open in the dark earth, not knowing if they'll find light, but trusting some deeper intelligence that guides them toward growth. Birds migrate thousands of miles without GPS, following some inner knowing that never fails them. All of nature lives in this beautiful state of trust, of flowing with what is while still participating fully in the dance of life. And you, precious one, you are part of this same nature. You have this same inner knowing, this same ability to trust and flow and dance with life's rhythms. Sometimes we just forget, especially when we've been taught that thinking and controlling are more valuable than feeling and trusting. Your beautiful mind, that precious part of you that's been working so hard to keep you safe, has learned to believe that knowing everything ahead of time is not just helpful, but absolutely necessary. It whispers to you, if I could just figure out what's going to happen, if I could just have all the answers, then I could relax. But sweet one, this belief, while so understandable, is actually creating more anxiety than it's preventing. When we constantly reach for certainty in an inherently uncertain world, we're like someone trying to grasp smoke with their bare hands. The harder we try, the more frustrated we become, because we're attempting something that goes against the very nature of life itself. Life is movement, change, growth, evolution. Life is the ocean, not the photograph of the ocean. Your mind learned to crave answers because at some point, not knowing felt dangerous. Maybe there were times in your childhood when the adults around you seemed just as lost as you felt, and that scared your little heart. Maybe you learned that asking questions wasn't always welcome, so you decided you needed to figure everything out on your own. Or perhaps you discovered that when you had the right answers, you received love and approval, so your mind began equating knowing with being worthy of love. But here's what that brilliant mind of yours might not have realized. The exhaustion you feel from trying to know everything, the anxiety that builds when answers don't come easily, the frustration of feeling like you're always behind or unprepared. This is actually more draining than simply not knowing. The energy you spend trying to control and predict and figure out could be used for so many more joyful things, like being present for the beauty that's happening right now, like connecting with the people you love, like following your curiosity and creativity. There's a beautiful practice I want to share with you, something I call the I don't know meditation. It might sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful ways to begin releasing this need to have all the answers. Find a quiet moment, place your hand on your heart, and simply say, I don't know, and that's okay. Notice what happens in your body when you say these words. Does your chest tighten? Does your mind immediately jump in with, but you should know, you need to figure this out? Just breathe with whatever comes up. Say it again, I don't know, and that's okay. Each time you practice this, you're teaching your nervous system that not knowing doesn't equal danger. You're giving that anxious part of yourself permission to relax its vigilant guard duty. You're creating space for a different kind of intelligence to emerge, the kind that doesn't come from thinking, but from a deeper knowing that lives in your body, in your heart, in your soul. This deeper knowing isn't about having facts and figures and 5-year plans. It's about trusting that you have an inner guidance system that's far more sophisticated than your thinking mind. It's the intelligence that knows how to heal a cut without you having to think about it, that grows your hair and beats your heart and digests your food without any conscious effort from you. This same intelligence is always available to guide you through life's uncertainties, but it speaks in whispers, not shouts, and it's often drowned out by the noise of our anxious thinking. When you can rest in not knowing, when you can find peace in the space between questions and answers, you open yourself up to receiving guidance in ways you never expected. Solutions appear that you couldn't have thought your way to. Opportunities show up that weren't on your radar. People enter your life at exactly the right moment. This is what happens when we stop trying to force life into our small human plans and start dancing with life's much larger, more beautiful intelligence. But even as you're learning to release the need to know everything, there will still be storms. Life will still bring challenges and changes and moments that feel overwhelming. This is when you need something even more important than answers, something I like to call your inner anchor. Your inner anchor isn't about having control over external circumstances. It's about cultivating a sense of stability and peace that exists independently of what's happening around you. It's that place inside you that remains calm even when the winds of change are blowing strongly. And the beautiful thing about this inner anchor is that it's not something you need to create. It's something you need to remember. It's already there, waiting for you to come home to it. When a ship encounters rough seas, the anchor doesn't stop the storm. It doesn't calm the waves or control the wind, but it keeps the ship from being tossed around helplessly. It provides stability in the midst of chaos. Your inner anchor works the same way. It doesn't stop life's storms, but it keeps you grounded and centered while you weather them. The breath is one of your most reliable anchors. It's always with you, always available, never requiring anything special or extra. When anxiety starts to build, when uncertainty feels overwhelming, when your mind is spinning with worry, you can always come back to your breath, not to change it or fix it or make it perfect, but simply to be with it, to let it remind you that you're alive, you're here, you're okay in this moment. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. This rhythm has been with you since your very first breath, and it will be with you until your very last. It connects you to every other breathing being on this planet. It reminds you that you're part of something much larger than your individual worries and fears. Your body itself is an anchor. When your mind is racing toward imaginary futures or replaying past events, your body is always here, always in the present moment. The feeling of your feet on the ground, the weight of your body in your chair, the temperature of the air on your skin, these simple sensations can call you back to now, back to the only moment where peace actually exists. There's tremendous wisdom in creating a sense of home within yourself, independent of your external circumstances. Home isn't just the place where you sleep or the people you live with. Home is that feeling of safety and belonging and okayness that you can carry with you wherever you go. When you've cultivated this inner home, you can handle any external uncertainty because you know that no matter what happens out there, you have a place of refuge within yourself. This inner home is built through small, consistent acts of self-compassion. It's the way you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. It's how gently you treat yourself when you're scared or confused. It's the patience you offer yourself when you don't have all the answers. Each time you choose kindness toward yourself instead of criticism, each time you choose understanding instead of judgment, you're adding another stone to the foundation of your inner home. But sweet one, even with all these tools and practices, even as you're building your inner anchor and learning to flow with uncertainty, that part of you that we call fear is going to show up sometimes. And that's not a problem to be solved or a sign that you're doing something wrong. Fear is actually one of your most loyal protectors, trying its best to keep you safe in the only way it knows how. Fear becomes a problem only when we try to get rid of it completely or when we let it make all our decisions for us. But when we can learn to have a different relationship with fear, when we can listen to its concerns while not automatically obeying its commands, something beautiful happens. Fear transforms from a prison guard into a wise counselor. Most of the fear you feel about uncertainty isn't actually about what's happening right now. It's about what might happen, what could go wrong, what terrible outcomes your mind can imagine. Your beautiful, creative imagination, which can paint such wonderful pictures of possibility, can also create very convincing movies of disaster. And here's the thing about these fear-based movies. They feel absolutely real to your nervous system, even though they're completely made up. When you find yourself caught in these fear stories about the future, it can help to gently ask yourself, what's actually happening right now? In this moment, what's real? Usually you'll discover that right now, in this actual moment, you're safe. Right now you're breathing. Right now you have what you need. The crisis your mind is responding to exists only in imagination, not in reality. This doesn't mean you should never plan or prepare for the future. It means you can make wise preparations without living in a constant state of emergency about things that haven't happened and may never happen. You can take reasonable precautions while still trusting that you'll be able to handle whatever actually comes. Real danger and imagined threats feel identical to your nervous system, but learning to tell the difference between them is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. When you're genuinely in danger, fear serves you beautifully, giving you the energy and focus you need to respond effectively. But when you're safe but worried about hypothetical futures, fear becomes a burden rather than a gift. There's a practice that can help you build faith in life's essential goodness, even when uncertainty feels scary. Each evening, before you go to sleep, take a few moments to remember the day's small kindnesses. Maybe a stranger smiled at you. Maybe you found a parking space just when you needed one. Maybe you received exactly the phone call or email or hug that your heart was longing for. These may seem like tiny things, but they're actually evidence of a benevolent universe that's constantly supporting you in ways both big and small. When you train your attention to notice these gifts, you begin to build a felt sense that life is fundamentally on your side, that you're being cared for even when you can't see the big picture. Faith isn't about believing in something without evidence. True faith is built on the evidence of your own lived experience of being supported, guided, and loved through every challenge you've ever faced. You've been brought this far not by your ability to control everything, but by your willingness to keep moving forward even when you couldn't see the whole path ahead. As you practice flowing with uncertainty, as you build your inner anchor and transform your relationship with fear, you're not trying to become someone different than who you are. You're simply remembering who you've always been beneath all the worry and doubt. You're coming home to the part of yourself that has always known how to navigate life's mysteries with grace and trust and love. The most beautiful secret about uncertainty is that it always brings us back to this moment, right here, right now. When we don't know what tomorrow will bring, when the future feels unclear, we have no choice but to land fully in the present. And this, precious one, is where all peace lives, not in yesterday's memories or tomorrow's possibilities, but in the sacred space of now. Your mind might tell you that living in the present moment is impractical, that you need to be thinking ahead, planning, preparing. But presence isn't about abandoning your responsibilities or ignoring your future. It's about discovering that you can only take effective action from a place of clarity and calm, and clarity and calm are only available in this moment. When anxiety about the unknown starts to build, it's usually because your mind has traveled somewhere else, into a future story that hasn't happened yet. Your body is here, sitting in this chair, breathing this air, but your attention is somewhere else entirely, wrestling with imaginary problems and rehearsing conversations that may never take place. The simplest way to return to the present moment is through your senses. What can you see right now? Really see, not just glance at, but truly notice. What colors are present? What textures? What plays of light and shadow? What can you hear? The hum of electricity, the sound of your own breathing, perhaps voices or music, or the quiet that holds all sounds. What can you feel? The temperature of the air on your skin, the weight of your body where it's supported, the texture of your clothes, the beating of your heart. These sensations are your doorway back to now, back to the only moment where you actually have any power to choose, to respond, to create. When you anchor yourself in present moment awareness, something remarkable happens to your relationship with uncertainty. It stops feeling like this enormous, threatening thing and starts feeling more manageable, more human-sized. You realize that you don't actually have to solve your whole life right now. You only have to be present for this moment, and then the next one, and then the next one. This is how all of life actually unfolds anyway, moment by moment, breath by breath. We never actually live in the future, no matter how much time we spend thinking about it. We only ever live in a series of present moments, each one offering its own invitation to awareness, to choice, to love. There's a beautiful mindfulness practice that can help you when uncertainty feels overwhelming. Wherever you are, simply pause and notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This gentle sensory inventory brings you immediately back to your body, back to this moment, back to what's real rather than what's imagined. The gift of uncertainty is that it keeps interrupting our autopilot living. When everything is predictable and planned, we can sleepwalk through our days, missing so much of the beauty and wonder that's constantly available to us. But when we don't know what's coming next, we have to pay attention. We have to show up. We have to be present. This presence is what allows us to catch those moments of unexpected beauty, those small miracles that happen all around us when we're awake enough to notice them. The way sunlight falls across a wall, the kindness in a stranger's eyes, the perfect timing of a phone call from someone you were just thinking about. These gifts are always being offered, but they can only be received in the present moment. Living in the present doesn't mean you never make plans or set goals. It means you hold those plans lightly, recognizing that they're simply your best guess about what might unfold, not contracts with the universe that must be fulfilled exactly as written. It means you can work toward your dreams while remaining open to the possibility that life might have even better ideas than the ones you've come up with. One of the deepest challenges of embracing uncertainty is learning to trust in divine timing, in the idea that everything unfolds exactly when it's meant to unfold. This can be particularly difficult in a culture that worships speed and instant gratification, where we're taught that faster is always better and waiting is somehow a sign of failure. But life has its own rhythm, its own seasons. its own perfect timing that often has nothing to do with our human schedules and deadlines. Seeds don't apologize for taking their time to germinate. Flowers don't rush their blooming. Fruit doesn't ripen faster just because we're hungry. And yet, when everything is ready, when all the conditions are perfectly aligned, growth happens effortlessly and beautifully. Your life unfolds according to this same organic timing. The job opportunity that arrives exactly when you're ready for it, even though you've been looking for months. The relationship that begins just when you've learned what you need to know about love. The solution to a problem that appears precisely when you have the wisdom and strength to implement it. When we try to force outcomes before their natural time, we often create more problems than we solve. We accept situations that aren't quite right because we're tired of waiting. We push for results before we've done the inner work necessary to handle them wisely. We mistake our impatience for intuition and our anxiety for urgency. Learning to wait with grace is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. This doesn't mean passive waiting, sitting around hoping something will magically change. It means active patience, continuing to show up, continuing to do your part, continuing to grow and learn and contribute, while trusting that the timing of outcomes is in wiser hands than your own. There's a beautiful practice that can help you cultivate this kind of patient trust. Each morning, as you're beginning your day, take a moment to ask yourself, what is trying to emerge in my life right now? Not what you think should be emerging, not what you want to force into existence, but what is naturally wanting to unfold through you and around you. Sometimes the answer will be obvious, a clear sense of direction or purpose. Other times, the answer might be more subtle, an invitation to rest, to heal, to simply be present for what is without trying to change anything. Learning to listen for these gentle invitations and to trust them even when they don't match your timeline is how you begin to align with life's deeper intelligence. Journal about what you discover. Write about the ways you notice life supporting you, the synchronicities that appear, the doors that open just when you need them to. Write about your impatience too, your frustration with not knowing, your longing for things to move faster. All of it is part of your journey. All of it deserves compassion and attention. As you practice trusting divine timing, you'll begin to notice something wonderful. The things that come to you in their right timing always feel more solid, more lasting, more truly aligned with who you're becoming than the things you had to force or manipulate into existence. This doesn't mean you become passive about creating the life you desire. It means you learn to work in partnership with life's timing rather than in opposition to it. One of the most profound shifts that happens when you begin to embrace uncertainty is that you stop seeing life as a race to reach specific destinations and start experiencing it as a beautiful journey to be savored. You realize that the goal isn't to get through uncertainty as quickly as possible, but to find ways to enjoy the ride even when you don't know where it's taking you. This shift changes everything about how you experience your days. Instead of rushing through the present moment to get to some imagined better future, you start paying attention to the gifts that are available right now. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles keeping you from happiness, you start seeing them as part of the adventure, opportunities for growth and discovery that you couldn't have planned, but that are perfect for who you're becoming. There's so much beauty available when you're not focused solely on outcomes. The conversations that happen while you're waiting for your real life to begin. The skills you develop while working toward your dreams. The people you meet along the way who change your heart in ways you never expected. The parts of yourself you discover when life doesn't go according to plan. When you can find joy in the journey itself, uncertainty stops being something to endure and becomes something to celebrate. You start to see that the not knowing is part of what keeps life interesting, part of what makes each day an adventure rather than a predictable routine. This doesn't mean you give up on having desires or dreams. It means you hold them as beautiful possibilities while also remaining open to the magic that can happen when life takes you in directions you never considered. Some of your most cherished memories probably come from times when nothing went according to plan, when you had to be spontaneous and creative and present in ways you wouldn't have chosen, but that led to unexpected joy. Practice celebrating small moments of beauty and connection throughout your day. The warmth of your morning coffee, the smile on a child's face, the way light falls through your window, the satisfaction of completing a task, the comfort of your evening routine. These moments don't require any special circumstances or achievements. They're freely available gifts that uncertainty can never take away from you. Create a daily practice of gratitude for the unknown gifts in your life. Thank the universe for the surprises it has in store for you, even though you don't know what they are yet. Thank life for the adventures that await you, for the people you haven't met yet who will become important to you, for the solutions to current problems that are already on their way to you. This practice of gratitude for the unknown helps you shift from seeing uncertainty as a threat to seeing it as a promise. A promise that life isn't finished with you yet, that there are still beautiful chapters to be written in your story, that the best might still be yet to come. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to feel something in your heart, something that might have been quiet before, but is now stirring awake. It's the recognition that you have everything you need to navigate whatever uncertainties lie ahead. Not because you'll suddenly have all the answers, but because you've remembered something even more powerful than answers: your own unshakable ability to flow with whatever comes. You are not broken because you don't know what's coming next. You are not behind because your path looks different from others. You are not lost because your future isn't perfectly mapped out. You are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. The uncertainty that once felt like your enemy is actually one of your greatest teachers, showing you how to trust, how to be present, how to find peace independent of external circumstances. It's teaching you that you are far more resilient than you ever imagined, far more capable of handling change than your worried mind wants you to believe. As you continue on your beautiful journey, remember that embracing uncertainty doesn't happen all at once. It's a practice, a gradual unfolding, a gentle returning again and again to trust when fear tries to take over. Be patient with yourself on the days when flow feels impossible, when anxiety feels overwhelming, when you forget everything you've learned about finding peace with not knowing. On those days, simply place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I don't know what's coming, and I'm learning that this is okay. I trust my ability to handle whatever unfolds. I am held by a love bigger than my understanding." These words are not just pretty sentiments. They are powerful affirmations that can rewire your nervous system's relationship with the unknown. Your life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And mysteries, beautiful one, are meant to be enjoyed, not figured out. They're meant to fill us with wonder, not worry. They're meant to keep us curious and open and alive to all the magnificent possibilities that exist beyond our current vision. Go forward with this knowing you are perfectly equipped for your own unique journey through uncertainty. Trust the process, trust the timing, trust your own beautiful heart to guide you through whatever comes next. The universe is conspiring in your favor, even when you can't see how, especially when you can't see how. And remember, sweet soul, that learning to embrace uncertainty and flow with life's changes is not just a personal gift you give yourself. It's a gift you give to everyone whose life you touch. When others see you moving through uncertainty with grace and trust, You give them permission to do the same. You become a living example that it's possible to find peace in the midst of not knowing, that it's possible to thrive even when the path ahead isn't clear. This is your invitation to dance with life rather than fighting it, to flow like water rather than resisting like stone, to find joy in the journey rather than postponing it until you reach some distant destination. Your life is happening now, uncertainty and all, and it is absolutely beautiful.